Welcome to I Love My HBCU ? The podcast where we express our undeniable love for HBCUs, but where we are also not afraid to address a few tough questions. So, sit back, learn a little, love a lot, and rep your HBCU. All right, good people, another episode and another reason to love your HBCU. I have Dexter Maryland Jr. on the podcast with me today for a beautiful conversation. And just before I hit record, I said, you're not ready for this first question, so I'm going to throw it right at him.
Oh, jeez.
Dexter, rate Texas Southern University on a scale of 1 to 10.
I'm giving it a 10. I mean, how,
He's like, I'm
what?
giving it a 10.
What?
So listen, let me say this. Let me say
what
this.
do you mean? I mean, that was not a hard question for me.
So let me say this. I will always say this. I respect those who don't give their colleges a 10 because it's not possible.
I'll tell you why I'm giving it a 10, right?
Let's hear this.
The reason I'm giving it a 10, and Texas Southern is not perfect in all its ways, but the reason I'm giving it a 10 is because it produced someone like me. You know, like I was able to receive all of the resources. I feel like I'm trying to plead a case in court, right? I was able. But no, you know, Texas Southern is one of those institutions that was birthed out of a different story, right? So we were both birthed in Texas, in the state of Texas, because an individual was not able to attend law school at UT, right? So our story is really different, and we're a younger institution. And so to see us birthed through the civil rights movement, through that era, and to be blossom in a state like Texas, and we all know how Texas can be, and still produce people like myself. We had a senior advisor to Kamala Harris that's an alum from Texas Southern. So that's just a testament to, although we've been given pebbles, we built some mountains out of it. So I'll give it a 10 all the time.
So Dexter, number one, I am half joking, not full joking, but half joking when I say I don't like it when people give their colleges a 10. I understand it, and it's why it's always good to have a reason for the rating, because a number of people give 10, some will give infinity, and I appreciate it as long as there's reasoning behind it, because experiences are our experiences. And the reason why you get a lot of love for HBCUs is because we recognize that there are issues, but we don't focus only on the issues. So I appreciate your reason. So world does not know this. You and I both know this. You are speaking to us from Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, as we speak, which is amazing.
Yes.
You are actually our first internationally recorded podcast episode.
Wow. And I am from Texas Southern University. You know, I'm still that's you know what I mean? That's what I mean.
So what's beautiful, and this is, listen, the Pickering Foundation did not pay or sponsor this episode. However, I want to talk about how and why you are in Tanzania, and it does give credit to Pickering Fellowship. So tell us how you are a Texas Southern University alum. We're going to talk about TSU in a hot second. Don't get me. But I do find it impressive that you are our first internationally recorded guest, and you are there because of a very, very specific reason. So share with the audience, if you don't mind, how Dexter Maryland Jr. found himself in Tanzania.
Yes, so we may not have enough time for the long story, so I'm going to give a crash course, right? So
I'll take it.
In 2022 I was interning in DC with the Congressional Black Caucus. Shout out to the Congressional Black Caucus, an amazing
Absolutely.
So I was interning with them, and I originally wanted to do the Rhodes Scholarship. Many people know about the Rhodes Scholarship with Oxford University. I wanted to do that. I had some issues with my GPA. We won't talk about it. It dropped a little bit. And it actually wasn't my fault, but we won't even get into it.
We won't go into that.
We won't go into it. So I was in DC, and I was like, I am a firm believer in God. I'm a Christian. I'm obviously wearing a cross on my neck. And I said, God, you know, like I want to go to grad school. I want to pursue community building. culture bridging abroad, but I don't know how, and I don't even know what that looks like. So I was in the Uber and I was telling him about my passions. This is after I prayed to God, and an individual told me about the Thomas R. Pickering Fellowship and the Charles Rangel Fellowship, two fellowships that are a pipeline into the Foreign Service, where you become a Foreign Service generalist, a U.S. diplomat, after getting your master's through these two programs. The benefits of the program is they want to make the Foreign Service look holistically like what the United States represents. And so they seek individuals that normally won't seek out, the State Department, but fits the criteria, has the passions, have the background, have the that they may need to join the Foreign Service. And so I applied for both of the programs. I got into both of them. I asked God for it, but I wasn't listening. Thank you. I wasn't listening, and I was like, you know what? I don't need the Pickering Fellowship. I'll just do the Wrangle. And I was like, I'm not gonna go through with it. I'm not gonna go through with the Pickering. It's okay. And so something told me, which I feel like it was God, please submit this. So I submitted it. I'll be very candid with you all. I didn't fully complete the end of it because I didn't want it. I knew I was going to get
Oh,
the other
wow.
one, right? I was so adamant about this other opportunity, and they reached back out to me and was like, Dexter, your application has a lot of potential. We're going to extend it a couple of days for you to resubmit. So I
Wow.
resubmitted it, got finalists for the other program, and then I pushed Pickering again to the side, and I was like, I don't need it. And so I was not going to accept the fact that I was a finalist. But I eventually did. I was like, you know what, God, I'm going to just listen to you. And come to find out, I didn't get the Wrangle. Although I was a finalist, I didn't get it. And I ended up getting Pickering. And so now I'm
Look at
here. I was
that.
able to go to Johns Hopkins University of Advanced International Studies, School of Advanced
Hmm.
International Studies, the number 2 school for international affairs in the world, right? Full ride. A lot of the when you get into this program, and I'm trying to get more persuade and encourage more HBCU students to look into it, because when you get into these programs, all of the top institutions in America, they're seeking you out. They're
Hmm.
looking for you. So, they do a whole college fair, but it's really them pitching themselves to you online. Like, hey, this is why you should come to Harvard. This is why you should come to Yale. This is why you should come to Stanford. This is why you should come to Columbia. They're pitching. This is why you should come to Georgetown. We're offering these programs. We're offering this amount of money. I chose Johns Hopkins because of the program itself, and it was a younger institution, and I wanted to be somewhere that seemed like it would include me in the learning. Went there, full ride, finished a couple of weeks ago, and now I'm on my way to. I like to say I'm a diplomat in training, so I'm on my way. I'm not there exactly yet, but in a couple of months I'll be there.
I love
Hopefully,
it. I
fingers
love
crossed.
it.
Hopefully,
I love it. B, the truth is, as a college professor and administrator, I have on several occasions, at least once a year, a student ask me, "Hey, Dr. Tosin, I want to be a diplomat. I want to be a foreign service officer.
wow.
How?" So this episode is for all of them. There
Yes,
are different ways to do it. I think the more fluid way to do it is exactly what you did.
it
There are
is.
fellowships that quite literally exist to
Mm-hmm.
navigate that process for you. That's why I wanted you to tell the story
Yeah,
of
yeah,
how you ended up in Tanzania.
yeah.
Something else I also know about you, because hey, I have to read your bio, right? Is you are very particular to Africa with
Yes,
regards to your diplomacy
yes.
pursuits. You studied international law, human rights and development, and climate sustainability, but you are particular about African politics and public diplomacy. Now, we could talk for 2.5 days easily just on the nature of African politics. And I want us to actually talk about it. I do. Look at his face. I want us to talk about it. And this is coming from an African. So I want us to talk about it. But before we do, I've
Yeah.
got to treat you to our amazing rapid fire segment. It's
Okay.
not just my fun part. All of us on the team love the rapid fire because
Uh-huh.
we're always looking forward to hearing the answers that come from the guests. So, are you ready? Sorry for the rapid 67.
I
What
think
is that noise? That, of course, is me. I tell
I actually
everybody,
look.
please
I
keep all
actually
your audio
thought it.
off, and mine wasn't.
I actually thought it was like a theme song for the. I thought that was like to enter the game. I was excited.
No. Oh my gosh, that would have been amazing. I should have played it off. I need to get better at this. I should have played it off as if, you know what,
Oh,
that's the theme song for the 67.
yeah,
I'm like, what is that? Okay.
yeah.
Are you ready for the rapid 67?
I am.
Let's do this.
Let's go.
Dexter,
67
describe your.
questions.
No, 67 seconds,
Oh, okay,
Dexter.
okay, okay, okay. Let's go. Let's go.
This
I'm
is what grad school does to you. What just happened with him, that's what grad school does to you. 67 seconds, not questions. All right, describe your HBCU experience in one word.
Hmm. I'd say adventurous.
Adventurous, I love it. If your time in college was a song, story, or even a movie, what would it be?
Song, story, or movie? Jeez, that is a hard question. These are hard questions. Song, story, or movie? Why is the movie Sinners coming up in my head? I don't know why, but that's crazy. Not to say that sometimes you just gotta go with that is what's coming up in my head.
Sinners. If Dexter's time in college was a movie, it's the movie Sinners, guys. No comment. No comment. Okay, Dexter. On a scale of 1 through 10, I think I know the answer to this. On a
Yeah.
scale of 1 through 10, how good of a student were you?
I would give it honestly, I'd say if I can categorize it, I'd say 10 because I was very active in class. But I'd also give it an 8 because I was a very annoying student. I always visited my professors and annoyed them about my grade to get it bumped up from like an A minus to an A or a B plus to an A minus. So I give it an 8 for my tenacity of annoying my professors. But 10 because I feel like I was a great student. I mean, I ended up becoming student body president. So I think
I was
it's
about to say, we're going to come back to that in a second. Okay. So they've told me that, listen, you guys have gone way past 67, but I'm still going to ask one more question. Shout out your, ooh, I've got two more questions. Sorry. Shout out your favorite professor and
oh
what
my
professor or
God.
administrator, what do they teach?
Oh my gosh. I I have so many, but I have to shout out the professor because I do think that at education higher institutions, professors are overlooked. And I always would stress this as a student body president, even to the professors. So Dr. Lancaster was my freshman English professor. Um, and she always spoke so much life into me. That was one of the professors that I annoyed a lot, but she helped me hone in on my writing, um, which in hindsight, I do a lot of writing now, even here with the State Department doing a lot of writing. And she has just become a part of my family. And she calls me
Hmm.
David because she says that my story is yet to be seen. So she calls me David.
Wow.
So yeah, I
Wow.
would say Dr. Lancaster Lawson.
Lancaster.
Lawson.
I love it.
Lancaster Lawson. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Lancaster Lawson. Now, my official last question. Sure, you have not been in Tanzania that long, but what's your favorite Tanzanian dish so far?
I have two.
Okay.
Palau. I love it. I finally ate with my hands, and I learned the proper way because one of my colleagues, his name is Daniel. He told me that I was watching someone else eat next to me, and they were eating really sloppy. And I was like, is that, that's just not appeasing to me. And he was like, that's not the right way. Like, if my mom was there, she'd probably hit them in their head. So I learned how to put my hands together, grab the food, push it up with my finger, and eat. I learned it all. So palau and mishkaki.
Okay.
Mishkaki, which is beef on a stick, and it's so good. It is so
Okay.
good. I just had it today, actually. It's amazing.
I love it. I'm glad I asked that question. I wasn't going to. It didn't pop into my head, let
Yeah,
me say
yeah, yeah.
that. And it popped into my head at the last minute because I'm sure this is also going to be the first time some people even hear about those dishes. It's my first time hearing about the second one. The
Okay.
first one I hear it a lot about Tanzanians because it's similar to different meals that we eat in West Africa. And for those listening, it is not unhygienic to eat with your hands in different African countries. It is
Yes.
cultural,
Yes.
and
It
it's
is
why it's
culture.
very that you dirty little people out there, watch what you do with your hands
And
because
can I say something? Sorry to cut you
go ahead.
off.
No, go ahead.
Here, it's a blessing. I'm gonna say this, and this is a good conversation. I went back and watched some of your other interviews. I don't think you laughed this much since you've been on. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. So listen, I will say this: you have to wash your hands before you eat here. They bring out a
Absolutely.
bowl of water with lime, and you have to wash your hands. America. I'll just leave it at that.
Leave it at that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank Dexter, can you
And
say
look,
that
I was
again for
looking
the
so
people in the
crazy.
back?
They brought me the bowl of water out, and I was like, so am I supposed to drink this? Like, is this a? And he was waiting. He was looking like he was gonna hit me if I don't wash my hands before I start, digging in or whatever. And so you have to wash your hands before you eat. They will bring a silver bowl with hot, warm water, a lime in it. You scrub in there, and you get in.
Can't Dexter, for this is not what this episode is supposed to be about, but it's okay. So, Dexter, speaking of washing your hands before you eat, and I like the way you leaned in and said, America, here's why. So, anyone listening to us, and if they happen to be African, they'll be like, okay, duh, you use your hands a lot when you eat, but in the West, per se, you don't really, you use cutlery or silverware a lot when you eat. But here's the deal, right? The amount of times, Dexter, that I have seen somebody start with silverware and end with their hands is countless. Think about when you're eating chicken. Think about when you're eating a sirloin steak that still has the bone on it, a T-bone steak, sorry. And all of a sudden, I see you go from cutting to hand in. But did you wash your hands? Half of the time, the answer is no. So
And
thanks.
they make you wash your hands even if you're using utensils. So I love it.
That's my point. That is literally my point,
I
that
love
we should get into the habit of washing our hands no matter what. So listen, we digress.
it.
Anyone
Yes,
that
sorry.
like just jumps in, they're gonna be like, what are they talking about? Are they
Right,
really
right.
talking? Yes, we are talking about hygiene and washing your hands when you're eating. Dexter, you are. We're going to see you on television. Even if we don't see you on television in that stereotypical way, we are going to see you as a diplomat speaking life
Yeah,
into several things one day.
yeah.
But it didn't start there. Give me your college selection journey. Sure, you're from Texas, but Texas has got so many different schools to choose from,
Yeah.
inclusive of HBCUs.
Yeah.
Why Texas Southern?
Yeah, so disclaimer, you will hear Jesus, God, Lord a lot from me, okay? Audience. So I originally did not want to attend an HBCU. Some people may not say this, but I'm very transparent and honest when I talk about my experience. I personally thought, and at that time, there was before, the Black Lives Matter wave with George Floyd. This is before HBCUs were becoming more prominent again. This was in 2019, 2018. My college selection was 2018, right? I thought going to an HBCU would limit my experience and my opportunities. I didn't really hear a lot about HBCUs, historically black colleges, at my high school, Lamar High School in Houston. However, I did want to go to Baylor. I thought I was going to be a surgeon. I thought I was going to be a neurosurgeon because I watched Grey's Anatomy and I binge watched it over the summer, and I just knew that that was my life. And then I realized my hands do not stay still enough, and I don't want to. I don't want those. I don't want those problems. So I wanted to go to Baylor. I wanted to go to Baylor University, and my godfather, he stated to me, he was like, in order for us to visit Baylor, we have to visit HBCUs first. In order for us to visit LSU,
Wow.
we have to visit HBCUs first. So we did
Wow.
a college road
Wow.
trip. We went to LSU. I'm surprised I didn't stop at Southern. And I feel like in another
Huh.
life, that is probably the university I would have went to outside of Texas Southern. Um,
Interesting.
we didn't go to Southern, but we went to Xavier. We went to Dillard. We drove up and went to Tuskegee. We went to Fisk, and then we rolled back around down to Texas and went to Baylor. So got to Baylor, realized I can't afford that. It's expensive. And although my GPA and my grades and my test scores are great, they're still not offering me enough money. Um, so I was choosing Xavier. I had some friends going there. I was interested in going there, right? I felt like I had a posse, a crew of people that I was going to be with. I was going to study political science. However, again, I didn't want to take out loans. So, and
Smart.
that was just me personally. Um, quick back story. My mom didn't graduate high school, neither did my dad. So, the financial burden of college and even understanding college, right? That wasn't something that I was going to have a lot of support with. So I had to understand
I see.
picking my battles and what I wanted to fight, and loans was not one of them. So I was begging Xavier. I'm like, can y'all just give me a little bit more money, a little bit more money? I increased my test scores, and they were like, hey, like this is all we can give you.
Wow.
And so I applied to Texas Southern, maybe about 3 weeks before school started, which is so crazy.
Wow.
I emailed the um, head of the honors college because her son went to my high school. I had just interned that summer before with the lawyer, so I had kind of gotten into my networking bag and knowing how to, connect with people and finding those things that
Absolutely.
connect us.
Absolutely.
So I was like, okay, her son went to Lamar. I know I can probably get an interview about, like, talk about that and da 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 da.
Hmm.
So I got an interview. I got into Texas Southern. Ended up getting into the honors college, full ride at Texas Southern. That still wasn't it because the first day it was a little rowdy in the RA in the office in the building meeting. The building meeting for on the guy side of the residential living for freshmen, and I was like, Lord, I walked out of that meeting. I said, Lord, I don't think I can do this. I am going to transfer to Howard after this. That's my goal. I
That
didn't
was
even
the
state that.
plan.
I didn't get into Howard. I love Howard, but they did not let me in, and that was one of my tops. So I was like, that was one of my top schools. That was one of the tops of the list, right? And
Yes.
so I was like, Lord, I'm gonna just trust you because if I do this, I'm leaving here because this does not fit the vibe that I'm going for. And I trusted him. It wasn't fitting the direction of where I thought I was going, but I trusted him, and I felt like he had me there for a reason. And I mean, from that moment of saying, this is yours, I mean, I was able to be on Kamala Harris's Instagram page on her campaign when she first started running for president. I was able to be featured on the news. I started to get into the lane of political science, right? I met one of my good friends named Tyler Smith. He connected me in the field there. I had just interned with the judge before I got to TSU, so he connected me. And I mean, the connection, it was like God had already had everything laid out for me. So that's how I wouldn't say I necessarily chose Texas Southern University. I really would say it was already chosen for me.
Mm, mm, mm. So I appreciate a lot about what you said, even though people write it anonymously in the comment sections of several different posts,
Yeah.
very few people will vocally say, I did not want to go to an HBCU, and not just
Yeah.
stop there. but because I thought it was going to be limiting for me.
Yeah,
Very, very,
yeah,
very few people will admit that.
yeah.
And this is coming from somebody now who is giving TSU a 10 out of 10
I'm
on
giving
a
it a
rating
10.
scale. So I love the way that just how things start don't have to be how they end.
I don't.
Because I bet you, no, I bet you, all we have to do is look at your bio. It has not been limiting for you. In fact, it has been a very good
Yeah,
propeller for
yeah,
your career, which I think is absolutely amazing.
yeah.
Um, you got lucky. If you were to ask me, you got lucky by
Uh-huh.
somebody saying to you, we are going to go to these schools that you want to visit. However, you must visit HBCUs as well.
Yeah, yeah.
So by the time this episode gets aired, by the time the audience hears this, it will be the 2025-2026 academic year.
Uh-huh.
What do you say to the student like Dexter
Uh,
who stepped onto or steps onto an HBCU campus, doesn't quite feel the vibe within that first day, week, month, and has personally committed to themselves, I'm going to give this to the end of the semester,
and
and
I'm
then I'm
leaving.
heading out.
Right, right,
There
right,
we
right,
go.
right, right.
What, because I want to know what turned the tide for you, but in answering what turned the tide for you, what would you say to that student?
Yeah. So first, I'd say what turned the tide for me was when I pray. My answers they're not far from there. It's like God
Wow.
is waiting on me to surrender what I have, and
Okay.
when I did that, I mean things lined up. It made sense. I mean, my grandmother fell sick right after that, right? And the doctor said she's not going to live. She's still here today. But in that
Amen.
moment, I realized you need to be home. You need to be here for something, right? Things were starting to
Ah.
line up. I mean, I was in the honors college. I met good friends. I hadn't met them yet because this was just freshman week where I was like, I can't do this. But then I realized, okay, there's students up here up my alley that you may think is a nerd, but really cool, right? I find myself to be cool. Um, and I was like, you know what? This is working out for me. So things begin to align for me. And I gave it time. It was not easy,
Mm,
but
mm,
I gave it time. And that's what I would encourage any student entering into the HBCU field, whether your school calls it the yard, we have a tiger walk, whatever your school may call your your space when you walk into the institution. When you walk into that space, give the institution grace enough to show you an experience that you may not even know is there. You know, we give so
mm,
many opportunities to these other institutions, right? That are not specific that were not specifically created to serve us. We give a lot of grace to. And we sometimes don't give grace to the places that were birthed for us, right?
mm,
So I would just say give it grace to show you something that you did not expect. Allow it to blow your mind. Allow yourself to be there and say, you know what? If I would have left here, where would I be? And I always think about that. Even
mm.
as I'm here in Africa, I'm literally in Africa. I was on a boat last weekend, and I was like, I'm in Africa, and I've been wanting to get here, and I'm here. If I would have changed my mind, if I would have left, right? Who's telling? And God has destined me for whatever He has destined me for, but it may not have been this because I would have been in the way of whatever the plan is.
Mm,
So give
mm.
that institution some grace to blow your mind. That's what I'd say.
I hear grace and I hear time. Give it
Yeah,
time and give it
yeah,
grace. I
yeah.
appreciate that. I really do. Remember, I promised you earlier on that we're going to talk about African politics.
Look, I'm like, where's my water? Where's my water?
There's no more water in your bottle. I'm not going to get you in trouble at
Okay,
all. And
okay.
you are a diplomat after all. So listen, it's not like you were going to give me that answer straight anyway. Um, what are your general thoughts? And this is such a broad question.
Mm,
I am African born. I am Nigerian,
mhm.
quite specifically, and we can talk all day long about the
Yeah,
wranglings of
yeah,
African politics.
yeah,
As somebody who it's foreign to you
yeah.
and you are delving into it headlong, what is your impression?
So my, I'll give an analogy to start this off. I really
Please.
do not believe you can build a house with a broken foundation. I don't. Right? And I
Wow.
think that after my time, and I'm still learning different things about Africa's nature. A lot of people say country. They don't even say continent, right? So we already have so many misconceptions about Africa, right?
Sure,
That's
sure,
already a
sure.
problem. So I'm learning a lot of new things. But as I have been experiencing these past 2 years, that is the first thing that comes to my mind. You cannot build a house on a broken foundation, and the reason I say that is because I don't want to beat a horse over the head, but colonialism. When you look at the history of colonialism in Africa, a lot of the colonialists came into these spaces, right? And when they left, they didn't leave any resources.
Hmm.
So what did they leave? They left people to figure out how to do these things. Some people wanted to figure it out a different way, right? You have some countries that said we're going to charter a new path. And then you had some that wanted to charter it the same way with their colonialism. So when I look at African politics, I see something that has been built on a broken foundation. You had a lot of colonialists come in and redraw tribes that were not supposed to be together, right?
Mhm.
A lot of different
Mhm.
spaces here that were not supposed to be integrated into one country. This is one tribe and one tribe, and you came in and drew a line and said, "This is what we're gonna make."
Facts.
So
Facts.
it's a broken foundation, and before the house can be stable enough, that
Mm.
foundation has to be checked, right? And that's what I'll say. I don't know if that's the answer that was good, but that's my
It's
mindset.
your answer. It's your answer. It's listen, it's your answer. And
Right,
for those
right.
who are listening, there's a lot of layers to that answer. And I love there's a part where you said some after the colonizers left, some chose to chart the path where it actually continued the
Yeah,
colonialism,
yeah,
whereas others wanted to chart a new path. And that's
yeah.
very real. And I don't think people
They don't
realize
know
that,
that.
but that's
Yeah,
very real. Um, I love the way you've approached your response, which will always allow for a rich conversation
yes,
where it will never be about right way and wrong way,
yeah,
because I don't think that's a thing when it
yeah.
comes to a lot of conversations.
No.
You're not right, I'm not wrong, vice versa. It's more so let's look at the perspective here and see
Yeah,
whether or not we can do something with the
yeah,
perspective. Now, Dexter, you call yourself a diplomat in training. I call you a diplomat, but you call yourself a diplomat in training. Um, and you find yourself in spaces like the African continent with different countries. I mean, again, all one has to do is read the history.
yeah.
Countries that don't particularly belong together, tribes that don't particularly belong together, but they have to function with each other.
Hmm.
And if I'm putting you on the spot here, say, whoa, Tosin, that's a bit much now. If I'm putting you on the spot, please do that. Please, please,
Yeah, yeah. No,
rein
no.
me in. I'm okay with that. When I look at what the Pickering Fellowship is trying to do,
Yeah.
and let's throw the Pickering, let's throw Wrangle, and
Hmm.
let's throw Fulbright all in
Yeah.
one. Let's throw all of them
Fulbright. Yeah,
all in
yeah,
one bucket. Let's throw all of them in one bucket. When I understand that the United States State Department is doing with many of these programs, because they fund a good portion, if not all, of these
yeah,
programs, is honestly to have a lot of the fellows learn about the cultures of the countries that they're going to, don't get me wrong,
hmm,
but in a way that is ambassadorial of the United States of America,
hmm,
right? At
yeah,
least that's my perspective. If
yeah,
I'm wrong, but that's my perspective. If what you say is true, which I personally happen to agree with,
uh-huh,
that you cannot build a house on a broken foundation.
Hmm.
Is it advantageous to continue to throw, I'm going to use throw
Hmm.
for lack of a better word, expose this foundation to more cracks? And the
Yeah.
cracks that I'm referring to are, let me speak on Nigeria for 1.5 seconds.
Yeah.
I hear a lot of Nigerians get critical, those who are abroad and at home get critical of the way the Nigerian government goes about doing things, because instead of them trying to figure out something that is homegrown to them, they are instead trying to mimic and copy the Western world. And that, I consider that a crack in the foundation.
Yeah.
That's how I'm using the word
Yeah.
crack. So what are your thoughts on the fact that a lot of African countries, instead of them trying to figure out what's the politics that's going to work for us, they
Hmm.
look to the United States of America, they look to the United Kingdom, they look to most Western countries, even China. They look to China to
Hmm.
have them almost model for them what their politics and their political structure should be. As a
Yeah.
diplomat in training to you, but as a diplomat, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so when I say this, like you said, I know how to respond diplomatically. When I respond to this, this is not on behalf of the United States. So let's make the disclaimer.
This is
Um,
Dexter talking for
this is
Dexter.
Dexter talking, right? And so there's so many answers I can give you for that. The first thing that popped up in my mind, though, there are a couple of stories, and I don't know, I don't want to misquote them, and you may know about this,
Okay.
where there are some nations that are becoming more and more independent in Africa, where they don't need Western influence. What I really think is needed, before I even answer the other question, a lot
Mm-hmm.
of nations in Africa need to start looking at that blueprint. What are they
Mm,
doing? What are they doing? Obviously, the reason why I wanted to focus on Africa is because obviously this continent is rich in so
absolutely.
many ways to where there are so many other entities wanting to be a part, right? It's so rich. So look at that blueprint. Now, to answer your question, how do you even approach it when there's so many other outside forces? You stated the US, China, other areas that are coming into these cracks. How do you approach it? I think for me on a personal level, it's the intention. So you have to marry and mirror the priorities of the institution you're working for. So I would have to mirror and marry the priorities that I'm working for with the United States. And right now, that's commercial diplomacy. We want to make sure that there's economic benefits on both ends. But now, how do I approach making sure that Africa is going in a direction where they can stand alone? And I think
Mm,
that's the intention. And if it becomes conflicting, you leave that space. And
mm,
that's something
mm,
that I'm
mm,
learning, even with people that are in this area. They're like, hey, if it's something that you feel like is your bottom line, you cannot do it. You leave the space. And so I think it's just the intention. The intention, and you have a lot of people with great intentions here that's working for the United States and Africa. However, when you're mirroring priorities that may not align with your intentions, sometimes you gotta approach it in a different way. So it's hard. It's hard. But I think personally, I think where I am now and the tools that I am receiving, one day I can probably approach this as a own entity, as my own entity, as my own brand, right? And building that trust and knowledge here on the continent, the trust, knowledge, experience can propel me to say, you know what, I will step out and approach this a different way. I had a professor that retired from the State Department here recently, and now he's solely focused on Africa relations as his own
mm,
entity.
mm.
So he can take those tools he learned from the State Department, understanding the different stakeholders, the different factors to play in when you're working with these nations, and he can approach it his way. So that's the answer I have for that.
I'll take it. I'll take it. The more you spoke, I wrote intent versus impact.
Yeah.
And we don't have a lot of time to delve into that because we will talk forever about intent, and I shouldn't say intent versus impact
Uh-huh.
as if they're opposing each other, but intent and impact.
Yeah.
And sometimes they marry, sometimes they oppose.
Yeah.
And listen, whew, we
Mm.
could go into it. We could go into it, but we're not going to, because
Yeah.
so many things come to mind with regards to what I still call the continuing pillaging of African resources
Yes.
at the hands of old and new colonizers as
Yes.
we speak.
Yeah.
And I each time I heard you talk about intent, I would love to believe that the old and new colonizers don't have the intent to continue to pillage. But when you look at the commercial bottom line and other types of bottom lines, you're still pillaging by the end of the day. But I'm going to pivot. I'm going to pivot, Dexter. I'm going to pivot.
Look, I can take
Um,
hard questions. I really can. I
I
know how to.
listen, Dexter, you can take a lot of hard questions, but I also know that I respect the fact that
Yeah.
you are a Pickering Fellow,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I
I
respect that
appreciate
you
that.
are a diplomat. And I'm sure once the recording goes off, you and I will really get into it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
and I actually think we've already gotten quite a bit into it
Yeah.
even on the recording,
Yeah.
enough to give people some meat to go and chew on.
Yeah.
I really hope after this conversation a number of people say, let me go do a little bit more research on Tanzania. While
Yeah.
I'm at it, let me do a little bit more research on Burkina Faso with
Yeah.
their new president who is bucking a lot of Western
Yeah.
ideas about the way things are done. And then while I'm at it, let me do my own research on the populousness of Nigeria
Yeah.
and why you find a Nigerian in almost every facet of the world.
Yeah.
Like, I'm hoping, if nothing else, that this episode will encourage, number one, Black people all over the world, but beyond Black people, to educate themselves just a little bit more about the African continent
Mm-hmm.
and everything that it's got to offer. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sparing you from the hard conversation, Dexter. I think we've done what we were supposed to
We
do.
did. We did. We did.
We did. Dexter, you have so many good things to say about Texas Southern University, and I appreciate that about you. I also appreciate that it is coming primarily from the space of what you gave and gained from the
Mm-hmm.
university, which is very different when somebody is just looking at something based on what they expect to be done for
Yeah.
them. You were in leadership roles really early on
Yeah.
in your collegiate career. um I want you to share with us why president of the student body, and then you left there. Why president of the Black Student Association? Why is it important to have a strong voice
Yeah.
as an HBCU student in
Yeah.
places where people should be listening to you?
Yeah.
Why?
That is so good. I haven't. I don't think about my time as student body president a lot often. Um, and as you probably can tell, I'm very transparent. Reason being is because it was stressful. It was a lot of hard work. You become very isolated sometimes in that space. If you do it right,
Mm,
I'm telling you, and you can probably poll student body presidents at HBCUs across the board. If you do it right, you're probably isolated because people
right.
don't understand the work you're doing. They don't understand that you can't sometimes make it to everything, that your obligation is sometimes elsewhere. So that's the first thing I think about is just that stress. But it was so good, right? Like I, this one student reached out to me. This is when I left, and it was just like, I also got a lot of flack. I think HBCU presidents get a lot of flack when they're president, and people just, you have the good and the bad, right? And so this person just said, I just wanted to thank you because
Mm,
on the first day I was at the institution, I was stressed. We didn't know where we were going. I saw you, you had on the suit, and you stopped and talked with us and walked us and toured us where we needed to go. You didn't have to do that.
I
But
love
in that
that.
moment, I realized that you were a type of person that would stop what you were doing to seek and help other people. And that was like, you know what, that was, if I could not get any of my pillars, my initiatives done, that was the reason why I wanted to be student body president. A lot of times people shy away from the student leaders because you become, and rightfully so. I sometimes had that complex of I'm student body president. You know, you sometimes get into that. And you have to check yourself because the reason that you're here is because of these students, right? And so my intention was really to make sure that I serve the students. I mean, I don't know in how long, but I was the first to say, you know what, I'm gonna go and out of my own pocket buy the entire band pizza so they can have dinner at their band rehearsal,
Wow.
their band practice, out of my
Wow.
own pocket,
Wow.
right? And not to flex that I had it, but to say, you know what, we appreciate you. We call you for every event. We bring you to everything. You're in every video. You're always
That is
out and
so
about.
true.
Let me
That
come and
is
just
so
tell you
true.
thank you, right? I wanted to be that connection to the institution that sometimes students felt overlooked, right?
Wow.
Sometimes students felt overlooked at our institution. And I'll be completely honest. My intention was to say, you may be overlooked by the institution, but you will always have a voice in those rooms. I was always speaking up. People didn't like me all the time. Students and administration, and I love all of y'all now. They didn't always like me. However, I knew my job. I was always
Mm,
gonna push the
mm.
needle. I was always gonna speak up on what I thought about. Right? We held the first town hall under my administration, and I don't know how long. It was a couple of years, and it was because I said, you know what, things are getting out of hand. Let's just bring everybody to the front. Let's bring everybody to the table and let's talk about it. Those are the type of things that I knew becoming student body president would allow me to do. And I knew that when I was a freshman, I was freshman class senator. I feel like I'm rambling, but I'm gonna try to get through this fast. When I was freshman class senator, and I didn't want to do it anymore. I felt like SGA wasn't about what it should be. It wasn't student government association. It was a contest of all of the cool kids getting together and a lot of messiness. And I was like, I don't like this. And the person that was going into president at the time, she told me, Dexter, we need you. You need to stay. I didn't understand. She saw something that I didn't even see. I didn't understand why, but I stayed and I worked my way through. I became attorney general. I was Senate chair. Then I went into student body president and I was able to leverage. I mean, I did so much with so little, right? At
Mm,
that time, they
mm.
weren't even giving students a lot, so we did a lot with a little. And
Yeah.
so when I went into Johns Hopkins, there I was just like, I'm going to chill. Like I have not had time to myself. Quite frankly, not to be rude, I don't care about nobody right now. I just want to focus on me. That was my mindset. I was like, I just want to. I'm gonna make a little bit of friends, but I cannot overtake myself with the burden of everybody else in this season. I need to focus. So the first year I didn't really get involved. However, I saw some problems, and when
Mm.
you become a leader, you're like, oh Jesus, I don't want to say nothing, but I gotta say something. So I was like, I was talking to one of the directors of student affairs, and I told her, I'm like, what's going on? Like, we haven't had any meetings with BSU. I feel like we're not prominent here. Like, what's happening? And she was like, well, why aren't you involved? Get involved. And then you can say something. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. So I ended up becoming Black Student Union president. Um, the current SGA president wanted me to run for student body president, but I was like, I want to serve in a space where I know. And let's just be completely honest. In a lot of these spaces, as a African American student, as a Black student, you come into these spaces, and a lot of people that don't look like us look at us like we don't belong there. So one, I didn't want to serve in a capacity where people already felt like, why is he here? So I'm like, why am I
Mm.
serving this general body of some students? And there were some that were amazing, and then there were some that looked at you like, why are you in this classroom? So I wanted
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
I wanted to attach myself with the community that needed to harness into something greater than it was at the time. And I mean, we built from maybe 30 odd students to over 100 students, 90 to 100 students in BSU, right? And Black students, right? Because a lot of students were that weren't black. They were kind of fearful to join, which I wanted them to, but we built a community that was receptive to everyone. But we had 90 to 100 black students, African American, African students, African descent from the Caribbean. I mean, we had the student population, and we did something great there. We held events. We had a Thriving at Sites event where I wanted to teach them about how to thrive here. When you walk in this door as a black person, how do you thrive at this institution? Who do you need to know? How do you network? How do you get through when you walk into a class and you're the only black guy in the economics class, and you already feel like these numbers are going over your head, but now you feel like you can't look at anybody. You know, as black people, we can look at each other and be like, what's going on? You can't even look at anybody like that here sometimes, right? So
That's
how do we
crazy.
maneuver in this space? And so both of these connections, I think the reason it was still the same. I wanted to be a bridge for the students, and even that the headshot that's going to be on this episode is through that journey. Like, I didn't even want to become a part of the institution's outreach and outward looking, but because of the work I was doing, they always tapped me to say, "Hey, can you give us a story on how you got here? Can you be a part of this conversation? Can you?" I was an admissions fellow, so I was able to look over students' applications and interview certain students and help them understand how to apply and things like that. So I believe that my intention to really serve students got me into both of those spaces. One at Texas Southern University, and then at SICE at Johns Hopkins. Johns Hopkins was a little bit easier. It wasn't as stressful, but the impact was great on both ends.
Dexter, I am very, very hopeful, very, very hopeful that a lot of Black college students, first those at HBCUs, because that's what this podcast,
Yeah,
that is who this podcast caters to, but beyond HBCUs, Black college students who are in college hear you and get inspired.
yeah. Thank you.
I hear you who, when the calling or the tap on the
Yeah,
shoulder is for him to use his voice, he decides, I'm going to use my voice. I
yeah,
also hear somebody, from everything I heard you say, something very, very important that I hope people caught on. It's okay not to be liked. You're a leader, you're not always going to be liked.
yeah,
And you still spoke up for
yeah,
the people regardless.
yeah.
Dexter, we can keep talking. However, is there something I sometimes do a good job of
Uh-huh.
tapping in, sometimes I don't. But is there something that you definitely want to bless the audience with before we go that I did not tap on in this conversation?
So for me, again, I am a Christian, but I will make this very broad. Lean into your source, whatever that may be,
Whatever the source is.
whatever that source is for you. God has entrusted me with so much, and sometimes I'm scared.
Hmm.
Like, prime example, I'm here right now. I am a fellow, but I am acting as a cultural affairs officer, managing 8 people. I just
Wow.
finished grad school. I walked into the office like, okay, they're telling me this is my space, but maybe this is just, hey, we're gonna place the intern here until the
Uh-huh.
person turns up next week. No, I'm managing
It's
this team,
you.
and I have to continue to lean. On my first day last year with the State Department in DC, I was able to write something that went up to the Secretary of State. I had to lean into
Yeah.
my source, lean into why I'm here. And sometimes I am in my head, sometimes I am discouraged, sometimes as humans we have these moments, but then I remember, I think back, I'm like, I didn't come from much, and I'm here. I didn't get into the school that I originally wanted to get into, but I'm here, right? My dad's not in my life, and love him, but I'm here, right? I have those moments where I have to remember that when I thought I wasn't worthy enough or lacking, I always leaned into my source. So why stop now? So if I can tell anybody, if you're listening, and I hope you are listening and you stay through the conversation, lean into your source. You never know where it will take you. And most of the times, 99% of the times for me, it's been to greater heights.
Dexter, I'm not adding a single thing into that. I'm going to write when we post your episode, lean into your source. I love
Wow.
it. That is
Wow.
such a message for me.
Yeah.
Leave our audience with a parting word or short phrase on why you, Dexter Maryland Jr., love HBCUs.
A parting word on why I love HBCUs. I said it earlier, but I believe that HBCUs, they continue to take pebbles and build mountains. Every single time we see it in every instance. And even when they try to deny those mountains, they still got to cross them. So, yeah.
I love it. This kid might be a pastor someday.
You know,
Thank you for
maybe.
He's like, no.
Amen. We're going to close the doors now.
Anyone who caught this, you caught a gem. Thank you for tuning into I
Yeah.
Love My HBCU ? It is impossible for you not to go ahead and like and subscribe to this episode, to the podcast, because of Dexter on this episode. I have enjoyed watching. I have enjoyed listening and soaking in all of the gems that Dexter has to give to us. Yours in HBCU love, Dexter. See you next episode. Thank you so much, Dexter.
Bye.
You've been listening to I Love My HBCU ? Let's keep the conversation going as we share our stories and encourage more practical support of HBCUs, whilst of course holding each other accountable. Don't forget to follow and subscribe for the latest episodes. Until next time, love and lift your HBCU.